Right, it is time for The Strain.
I didn't realize how much I missed this show.
And yet she was like, oh god, why? The second the credits started rolling. So take that with a grain of salt.
So stuff happened.
As per usual. This show opened and you see the gang, they're doing their thing, they're still reeling from their near defeat of the master, and they're so pissed that it did not work. And F, of course, is mad at Satrakan when F has contributed nothing to anything ever. So, you know, he's just being a little bitch. Now the rat catcher and Kesha
are being, like, actually useful human beings. Like,
they're getting their place fortified so that they don't wake up to a vampire attack in the evening.
I like what the rat catcher said to F, where he's like, my plan is I'm going to fortify this place, and then the place next to us, and then eventually the entire block. Like, that is logical thinking right there.
Like, we may have, like, this one little place now, but, you know, tomorrow we're going to have 2 places, and then the next day we're going to have 3. And maybe if 2 of us start in either direction, maybe that day we can actually have 4.
But, okay, so first of all, the episode when it opened, like the very beginning of the show, was Satrakan and his grandmother sitting in their little, like, house. And she says to him, if you eat your soup, I will tell you a story.
And she, like, waves the knife around.
She was
points
amazing.
It at the kid.
She was amazing, and so she's telling the story about this man who was very, very large. He suffered, what's it called? Like
gigantism.
Yeah.
Giantism.
But he was, like, super nice, and everybody loved him, and his brother wanted to fix him, so they went in the forest to hunt this white wolf.
Grey wolf.
Well, they wanted to hunt a wolf, and then
one person in the hunting party goes missing, and then 2 people in the hunting party goes missing, and then pretty soon you've just got one giant guy sitting in the woods like, well, shit.
I better go, like, kill the monster. And then what do we see? We see the master in his little frail master body, like the other masters, and he's just like, oh, this body's frail, and I'm just like, no, this isn't gonna be fun.
So, what happens? But he's like, oh, well, I've got you. You weren't quick enough to stop me, as he shoots his stinger at him. And he's like, I'm going to give you a gift. You'll love it, I swear.
And then he picks up, like, a handful of worm dirt, because he has, like, his coffin just, like, chilling over in the corner, and stuffs it in his mouth. And we're like, okay, that's cool. And then he's just,
that's the scale of this show. Worm dirt we're okay with, apparently.
It's so much fun because it's so ridiculous. Like, we go from, like, okay to, like, max out the camp stale. Like,
ah!
And so he's like, ah! And, like, he's on the big guy's, like, on the ground flailing. And then he, like, the master, like, jumps on him and, like, starts kind of, like, retching. And I'm like, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it. And then he, like, throws up all of the worms in his body into, like, this mouth that's, like, clogged with dirt.
It's like an avalanche, and I'm like, well, okay, that was a waste.
You know, if it was, like, slower, if they just kind of, like, you know, like, leak out of his mouth, I think it would have been a lot more creepy. Not just, like, the silly of just, like, projectile vomit!
Or even if you, like, watch them climb down the guy's throat.
Yeah.
That would have made so much more sense than just, like, oh, a couple of worms got in his mouth, and the rest just went all over the floor.
Well, I guess they're, like, they could have, like, crawled up his body eventually. Like, he was just kind of, like, lying there flailing. And then it's like, oh yeah, he came back from the woods a few weeks later, he was changed, children went missing. Ha ha ha! Finish your soup, honey!
Oh yeah, you might hear the clunk, clunk, clunk of his cane outside your window. Hi! Hi! And then it cuts to Satrakan, and you see that he's actually got the guy's cane. Yeah. And that's what he's been carrying around, which is totally cool.
It was, yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Got you ready for the shit show that would be the rest of the show.
And then so it cuts to old Satrakan, and he's wandering around, chasing after the master, going through this corridor like
by
shit.
himself.
Like, and you're like,
buddy, we, like, dealt with this last season, that time that you stumbled upon, like, the nest and you almost didn't make it out alive.
We don't go places alone. None of us. Even though you're pretty damn badass.
And so he goes, right? And he's in this tunnel. And, like, you hear, like, the vampire scuttle noise. And then he kind of turns around. And there's FOLKSY.
You're like, oh, thank fuck.
And he's just like, who are you? Who are you? And then they, like, knock him out. And I'm just like, FOLKSY!
So anyways, Citraken wakes up, or has the bag taken off of his head, and he is surrounded by FOLKSY's men and Gus. And they're like, hey, we want to make a deal with you. No more questions for now.
It's gonna be an alliance, because sometimes enemies, you know, come together to fight common enemies.
Hey,
look, the masters!
It's all water in the bridge, right? So anyways, in we walk to the room with the masters on the gurney. You're like, alright, masters on a gurney. Okay. And they're asleep, but QUINLAN can speak to them, I guess, through their mind. And he's like, I speak for them, and, you know, we'll make a deal with you. And Abe's like, well, are you going to tell me how to kill the seventh master? And he's like, no, we're not going to tell you that.
I have to say, the one thing about FOLKSY is he has a ridiculous sense of humor. Like, he's just so just like, you know, you would think he'd be on The Office. Kind of, like, that sense of humor. Like, someone says something to him and he just kind of turns and looks at the camera just like, really? Yeah, I'm totally gonna, like, tell you how to kill masters with, you know, the three of them sitting in front of me. Like, yeah!
So anyways, he's like, no, we're not telling you that. And then he's like, well, I've heard about this, or Citraken's like, well, I heard about this book called something de Luma. I can't remember. And then he's like, what do you know about that? He's like, well now I know that it exists. He's like, shit. And all the other masters are like, fuck.
And so it's like, okay, we'll let you live. And the only reason we're going to let you live is if you run into him, the master, you inform us that you found him. That's the deal. And Citraken's like, hey, that sounds fair. And he walks out.
No, he doesn't walk out.
Oh, right, because the masters are waking up. And remember?
No, this is my favorite part. They're like, we're gonna leave now. Like, let's leave. They're waking up. We don't want to be here when they wake up. And then they stand there and watch as the masters wake up.
And, okay, remember last season when we were talking about the first reveal of, like, the multiple masters in the room and how there's, like, this blood stain on the floor, and we were just like, what's going on? Like, what's the point of that? Well, guess what? We finally get to see what actually goes down in that room! See, I thought that they were asleep, like, for hundreds of years. Like, I thought that they just transported them asleep, and they haven't woken up. That's what I thought.
That's what I thought, too.
But no, you know, they wake up for snack time, and we got to see them, like, feast on a dude, and they, like, slapped him around a bit, and it was
really awkward. It was really awkward, because they bring this guy in naked and in chains, they chain him to the floor, and then they stand back. And the masters get off the gurney, and they each could, like, get a stinger into him, like, you know, like a second chain to hold him down. And then, yeah, they come in, and they start, like, slashing at him in this weird, like, kind of, like, Dance of the Devils kind of deal, like, it's exactly what you would expect Disney to do if he was trying to put them into Fantasia.
So F and Nora go out to, like, a lab to look for supplies because they want to figure out a thing. Nora has given, like, a speech about we should find a cure or we should find a vaccine. And F's just, like, drinking real F, because, you know, that's what F does. Right, F? Whee! So they go into this science lab and they're, like, going around, they're talking about this doctor friend who ran this lab and how he had 10 labs, and it's like, oh yeah, I wonder what happened when he was smart, he got out, and then they proceed to be attacked by, like,
Said
5
doctor.
or 6, like, vampires, including said doctor. Why are we here? Why are we in an abandoned lab? Like,
Ugh.
what is, like, guys.
Things that were different. They have replaced the actor for Zach. I'm a little angry about that.
Me too, he was kind of awful.
It was like every other child actor that's a little bit hard to take. He's got that, like, child poutiness, like, I'm angry.
Well, last Zach had a bit of a personality, right? Like,
yeah.
This kid is just kind of like, fix mom!
Yeah.
There's nothing I can do. Fix her! Like,
just child unreasonableness that's really annoying.
Like they aged him down like 4 years.
It's not working out.
And then because like awkward child acting isn't enough, we got to see like Eldritch Palmer flirting with a woman who's like 20 to 35 years younger than him.
And you know what? The sad part is, if Eldritch Palmer was a woman and she was a young, attractive man, people would be like, cougar! But because he's a 65-year-old man and she's an attractive, like, 27-year-old,
it's okay!
No problem. This shit happens all the time.
And he was so awkward, and I loved Eichhorst.
Because at one point
he just turns around and walks away.
And he's like listening to this, and then he's finally like, enough. And of course, Eldritch is getting like a little high and mighty. Like, I am the master's partner. And Eichhorst is like,
oh, he's gonna love learning that.
Like, let me get him on the phone and tell him that right now. We finally get to see the master in this episode after he's been attacked by the group. And, you know, he's talking to Eichhorst and he's like, they've destroyed this body. You get the feeling he kind of liked this body.
Well, it was pretty big. It was like, you know, looming, like,
yeah.
Look good in cloaks.
And so his face is really burned, and I guess his body's gonna slowly start to disintegrate. And so he's like, well, first we need to plan my revenge, and then we need to plan my succession. So he's obviously looking for a new body. And he's like, bring the loam and get the children. You're like, what the fuck?
Because at first I'm like, maybe he calls all his vampire brethren his children, because they technically are, and I'm like, no, this is the strain, it's gonna be worse than that.
And lo and behold, they cut to a school for the blind.
And so the school is being relocated
Relocated.
into a quarantine, like, safe area.
And it's funny because the teacher's like, yeah, you know, those kids of you who have parents that are gonna pick you up, you guys get to go home and not go to the safe zone, but the rest of you can come with me. And you're like, oh good, half of you will be snacks. So on the bus they go and they're blind, so they don't even know where they are.
And then, like, they run into Eichhorst, because, you know, the bus just kind of drives and stops, and Eichhorst is in the middle of the road doing that, like, smile. It's like, hello, children!
I have a nice new home for you. Come inside.
Your journey has ended, but your adventure is about to begin. And I'm just like, oh no. So on the same topic, Eichhorst has gone and found Kelly among the adorably awkward sleeping vampires. Because they twitch. They're
like kittens in their sleep. Oh.
And he's like, wake up, you've been chosen. I'm just like, what is going on?
They have come to call you for our master.
The master has chosen you.
He has granted you back your power of speech.
And your personality.
And she's like, Zach.
Yeah, that's all she said.
And he's like, look, it started.
He leads her to the loam, which is just like this swimming pool full of worm dirt. The master is giving you a new family, new children. And I'm just like, oh, lovely. Meet the children of the night. And he's like, hands start like rising through the dirt.
You're like,
great strain, this is lovely.
Just what I always fucking wanted. Creepy children.
And our group goes to a storage bunker on the last like adventure part of the show, because Satrakan, being a smart guy, does not keep all of his shit in one spot. Like, good on you. Like, that is some planning. It's like, well, if this vampire invasion ever happens, I need a second stash.
And you're just like, I love this man. This man is amazing. So it's in this public storage locker, but unfortunately, he, for some reason, decided not to remember what number it was.
So they're going through and they're looking for this storage locker.
They open up lockers and, you know, they see that one's open and they're like, oh shit, there's vampires in there. And so they're all like getting ready. They've got their guns trained on the door and the rat catcher pops it open, and then there's this old couple whose child is conveniently, you know, at the Stoneheart school. Woo! And they're like, well, you should really come with us. you know, no problem.
In other words, a death sentence.
And so they find the locker with the stuff stashed in it, and they're like, okay, well, let's load this on the cart and let's go. And then, of course, like, right as they find this shit, the lights go out, and vampires start running down the halls. And now my question is, how the hell did they get in there? Like, okay, this couple is hiding in, like, an unlocked storage locker. Like, they're not going to survive in there if, you know, there's vampires running around in the halls. The vampire's going to be like, oh shit, there's something in here. Gotcha! No.
But we make it out, our poor old couple gets infected, and instead of offing them as the rat catcher would prefer them to do, F is just like, no, we need them to experiment on.
And you're like, great.
Great, this is not going to end well, because, you know, it never ends well to lock up one of the infected in your, like, fortified bunker. Like, that never ends well.
Don't do it.
Have you all seen 28 Days Later?
Like, seriously.
That never ends well. So, did you watch the first episode of season 2? What are your thoughts? What did you like? What did you not like?
What are you expecting?
What are you excited for?
Yeah. So I'm totally excited to see Mr. Quinlan some more. I want him and Gus to I just want to see a lot more of that relationship.
I want to see a fight between Mr. Quinlan and Eichhorst. That is what I want. I want them to, like...
Oh, Eichhorst would take him so fast, but I want to see the Ratcatcher and Nora get together.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I want. And it looks like F is slowly walking towards Kesha, so, you know. Yeah. Alright. See you later, guys.